Hey everyone, Brendan here. This is a keyboard that was graciously sent over to me by Wind Studio, who is known for their past Wind X boards. This board is the Sin65, and as you saw in the title, Wind Studio decided to try theming this board around mathematics. The Sin65 was their first step into smaller form factors, and they definitely tried to make things more unique with this board. First off, out of the box, we get an aluminum plate as well as a polycarbonate plate, a PCB type, which you're supposed to be able to choose at checkout, and a boatload of foams. After that, the daughter board, screws, and other little parts. Wind Studio also sent over some stabilizers for me to use in this build, but I've been told that the board will not come with any stabilizers in the group buy, which starts September 19th and runs through October 19th. Finally, at the bottom of the box is the case, of which they sent me the anodized gray color. You can see here that they made an interesting choice in exploding out the escape key, supposedly to prevent accidental presses. While it turned out to really thin out the sound of the key, I didn't find myself hating the look specifically. There are spots for batteries in the bottom, but I got the wired version of the PCB. Here's the first look at that weight in the bottom, more on that later, and a brief side profile view. Taking a look at the PCB, three notable things we see are, of course, the math formulas being printed on it, the dedicated spots for plateless mounting, and, of course, the fact that this PCB has no flex cuts, of which I'm a huge fan. Flex cuts have been known to really deaden the sound of a board, and I'm really satisfied with the sound this board gives off without said flex cuts. I opted only to use this thin layer of foam to cover the bottom of the case, and I opted not to include any of the rest of the case foams or plate foams, save for the PE foam on the PCB. Wind Studio sent over some complimentary Mera no Mi switches from Studio to use for this build. They're supposed to be One Piece themed. I feel kind of bad because I haven't actually watched One Piece yet, but it's definitely on my list of shows to eventually watch. I turned out to be a huge fan of these switches, especially considering how smooth they were stock. I'm in university now, so I don't have time to lube switches. I found that these switches actually paired very nicely with this board in the end. Once everything is put together, we see Wind Studio's solution into splitting some keys, reversing the hot swap sockets so you can customize more of the placement of certain switches. However, I was a little disappointed to find that there was no ability to have a split backspace. After putting everything together, I decided to opt for the gasket mounting since I got the hot swap version of the PCB. If I had the time to solder everything together, I probably would have opted to mount it plateless. However, I still really appreciate that this board is capable of being mounted either way. Here's some footage of me struggling to connect the daughter board to the main PCB. Wind Studio claims this side profile was designed for the keyboard to be comfortable for your fingers and make the board easy to move around. Supposedly, these curves are supposed to give your finger, quotes, a warm place. I'm sure there was something lost in the translation there, but I can kind of see what they meant. Now for a look at that PVD stainless steel weight, which is supposed to be the highlight of the Sin X theme going around here. I'm loving the little ripples on this weight. Wind Studio says that the cornered edges of this weight are supposed to make the color of the board really pop more, and whether or not it does this, I'll let you decide. And of course, now for the sound test.